UK ministers are playing down the significance of sending another warship to the Gulf amid tensions with Iran. HMS Duncan will join the British tanker that was threatened by Iranian gunboats earlier this week. Iran has already warned the UK it's playing a dangerous game. Meanwhile, the US House of Representatives has voted to restrict President Trump's ability to attack Iran following claims by Mr. Trump that he doesn't need the approval of Congress for such a move. Well, I'm joined by Burzine Waghmar, who's an Iranian specialist at SOAS University in London. Good morning, Burzine.
Good morning.
Well, first of all, this is a quite dangerous game, isn't it, that's developing between Britain and Iran?
It is a very serious situation and it is escalating, but might I take up your query of HMS Duncan sailing into the Persian Gulf, which was already pre-planned since HMS Montrose has to go to Mina Salman, Bahrain for repairs and line maintenance, which was overdue in any case, considering the staff on board and our Royal Navy personnel, might I point out on record, have been working overtime during this tense period. And this is July, so we are looking at 39 Celsius daily temperatures in the Persian Gulf and Straits of Hormuz. So HMS Duncan was already scheduled to go. It is not a new development or an emergency departure that has been brought forward, as it were.
Right. There is no increased British military presence in the net effect of that.
None whatsoever, because we only have 4 minesweepers in the Persian Gulf, and we're looking at about a good 15 to 20 British lines in the region of shipping daily in and out.
If the UK wanted to increase its military presence there, does the UK have the capability of protecting its own tankers?
Oh, but it would be at a stretch, considering that we only have, good 61 ships, 10 submarines and 1 leaky aircraft carrier as we speak. And as the former First Sea Lord pointed out, of our 13 destroyers on the roll call as we speak, only 8 are serviceable at any given time. And HMS Montrose is one such frigate that we have, which will be joined by HMS Duncan in the region soon.
Now, the Iranians are obviously upset because of President Trump's withdrawal from the agreement with them, which Britain still supports. But do you think we're seeing a sort of low-level conflict almost with these incidents with tankers in the Gulf going on, which could escalate?
Yes, for the simple reason that Iran would believe that its trump card, if I may put it, pun unintended, is the Straits of Hormuz, through which 20% of universal fuel consumption floats every day. We are looking at 21 million barrels. And that is a stranglehold point, and they could exploit that to the hilt, would they would choose to do so. Because at its narrowest, the strait is only 39 kilometers long, and there are 2 designated channels for all shipping to come in and out. And, it is serious that they could close at any time if they intended to do so, because they are local and they have the, familiarity and power to do so. Because the straits in question do overlap international waters insofar as the Omani and Iranian waters go. So they have an advantage which we don't.
Who do you think or what forces are driving this? I mean, there are many who would argue, including Mohammed al-Baradi, for example, that the Iranians have a point in being annoyed about what's happened. But who do you think is driving the more military aspects of this in Iran? Is there a distinction here between the Revolutionary Guards and perhaps the Supreme Leader on the one hand and the President on the other?
Very much so. In fact, the Revolutionary Guards, as one diplomat mentioned to the Financial Times last month on record, do not even heed President Rouhani. And they never have listened to the executive in question. They report directly to the Supreme Leader, Khamenei, who shares their worldview, which is decidedly anti-Western, radical, and anti-American, because that is the raison d'etre of the revolution and the Islamic Republic 40 years on.
So in that sense, if things do escalate, it's not a simple matter of negotiating with Iran.
No, it isn't, because it would be political suicide for them to do so. That is to say, the regime and its Praetorian Guard, the Revolutionary Guards in question, and Khamenei, who have invested their entire career in pitting themselves against the West, and in America in particular, which is designated as the Great Satan and, the fount of everything that's gone wrong with the world, and Iran and all of that. And that rhetoric keeps them going and has kept them in business pretty much for the last 40 years. So you cannot see a miracle. You can't see Kissinger and Lee Duck kind of Vietnam peace talks in Paris 73 happening here and a breakthrough, or with Pyongyang and Washington happening here, because here the entire setup is such that the regime would unravel because it would have no credibility left.
Now, while this tit for tat perhaps on tankers is going on, there's another big issue in the background, isn't there, Burzine, which is the various suggestions or threats, depending on your point of view, by the Iranians, that they will start producing nuclear material to a higher level than they have been doing before because of the American withdrawal from the agreement. At some point, that challenges, presumably, the European countries which still support the agreement.
Yes, because they have said they'd go up to 3.97%, if not more. And even during this period, prior to President Trump pulling out of the deal, mind you, what was not as part of the JCPOA agreement was Iran's nuclear ballistic missile system program that has not been monitored, and that is at surreptitious sites, which is not open to international inspections. And we don't quite know what is going on, but we do know they have been researching and are getting on with it. And they would have done so had this deal been in place too. And that is what creates nervousness in its near abroad among Iran's neighbors.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there for the moment. Burzine Waghmar,